What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. In this one, I'm going to discuss my first draft for my wildcard in Game Week 9. I have already activated the chip. I've pressed the button. I'm definitely wildcarding this week. Usually, I would do like a wildcard guide video, and that will still come later on this week. We'll answer some of your questions in that as well for those of you that are wildcarding. But given we're in an international break, we've got a little bit more time. So I just thought I would go through the first draft in this video, and then we'll discuss other talking points in other videos to come over the next couple of weeks. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like, hit that subscribe button if you're new around here as well, and let's jump into the draft. So we'll talk about the goalkeepers first of all. I think a lot of people on wildcard 8, or those people that didn't wildcard last week, went for Nick Pope, and he looks like a really good option, but he is 5.2 million now, so he's almost one of the most expensive defenders in the game. Only Ederson, Alisson and Lloris are more expensive than him. He might even go up again, and he gets even closer to their price, and I'm just not sure I want to pay that or double up on Newcastle defence going forward. I think the defence is pretty good. I think they got some pretty good fixtures as well. And if I had wildcarded last week, I would have definitely had Pope. So you might say, well, why does 1 week make a difference? But I think it does in this case, because obviously last week people were kind of limited in the options they could go for because of the blank game weeks. I don't have that now. So I think it might be worth saving a little bit of money and going for Guaita instead, who's only 4.5 million, and using that cash for elsewhere in the team. It does probably mean having to play Ward this week, which is not ideal, even against Nottingham Forest at home, but I think I'm okay with that. And if we look at kind of the Crystal Palace fixtures after this week, and you could, if you wanted to, play him against Chelsea instead of playing Ward. But you got Leeds at home, Leicester away, Wolves at home, Everton away, Southampton at home, West Ham away, and then Nottingham Forest away as well. So there is 4 of the 7 games are away, but I think overall the fixtures are pretty good. I'm not saying I definitely won't have Pope, but I think you can do something a little bit different on wildcard 9. I think if I was paying all that money for Pope, I might even consider going for Alisson instead and doubling up on Liverpool defence, who I know haven't looked great, but the fixtures are pretty good between now and game week 16. I know in game weeks, I think it's 10 and 11, they've got Arsenal and Man City, which is not ideal, but all the weeks outside of that are pretty good for Liverpool. So I think if I was going up to Pope's price, I would start considering Alisson and going for double Liverpool instead of double Newcastle. But for now, I'm on Guaita, right? So that's why Ward is in goal, just for this week only. And then I play Guaita for every single week after this. I am on 3 at the back. I don't think necessarily that big at the back completely flopped, like people have said. A lot of players did okay at times. Like I think I think Arsenal and Man City defence was maybe a little bit unlucky not to get a couple more clean sheets. But things have shifted, right? We're not going to be doubling up probably on Trent and Robertson anytime soon. I think Cancelo I'll come back to in a minute. Perisic is another option as well. But I just think it's what I said a few weeks ago when I think before he got the 12-pointer against Wolves. He's going to get those big hauls at some point because he's in a pretty good defence and he is very attacking. But I don't know if that's going to offset all the kind of 1 to 2 pointers that he'll get along the way. And I'm always going to be worried about whether or not he starts. I think he probably starts more often than not. But I think you're always going to have that in the back of your mind when the team sheet comes out. And I just don't know if it's worth putting him in and having 4 defenders. I think things have shifted, and 3-4-3 and 3-5-2 have made a comeback. So that's why I'm on these 3. I think Trippier is pretty much a lock. He's gone up in price again as well. Like I said, I think Newcastle got some pretty good fixtures. I just don't know if I want to double up. And I'm happier having a cheaper goalkeeper in Trippier rather than having Pope and like a Crystal Palace defender. I think it just makes sense to do it this way around. So Trippier is definitely in. I've put Trent Alexander-Arnold in because I think I'm going to want Liverpool players for basically up until game week 16. Yes, it's not ideal that they play Arsenal away and Man City at home in game weeks 10 and 11, but I think they haven't got a blank in game week 12. I've got to just put them in now. There's no point in putting someone else in now and then using a transfer down the line. One of the benefits to wildcard in this week is limiting the amount of transfers that you actually need. So if we look at his fixtures, and by the way, ignore the team that's on here. I'm just like looking for price rises and price changes and stuff like that. But if we look at Liverpool's fixtures, I think Brighton at home is a perfectly good fixture to have them for. Obviously, Brighton have got a new manager now. We'll talk about that in another video. I don't think they're going to be pushovers, but I always back Liverpool at home. So I think that's a good fixture. These two are tricky, but then from game weeks 12 to 16, the hardest fixture is Spurs away. They got West Ham at home, not been necessarily playing that great so far. Leeds at home, Southampton at home, all good fixtures. I definitely want Trent for that. And if I go for Cancelo, and I've not completely ruled him out, but he has Man United at home. Now, I would back Man United to score in that game. I don't think they win the game necessarily, but I think they can score. Southampton at home's a great fixture. He could honestly get a big haul there. I will be worried about not having him, but I think Liverpool score as well. So if you think Man City are going to concede in 2 of the next 3 games, and then they've got a blank, I think you have to go without Cancelo. I think, again, I wouldn't say that's a benefit of Wildcard 9, because if you've got Cancelo, you're not thinking about selling him at all. You might even just bench him for game week 12, but I think you've got to look at ways where maybe you can get slightly ahead of the crowd, and I think backing against Cancelo might be one of those ways. And ultimately, if I'm only going for 3 defenders, which one of these 3 am I dropping to get Cancelo in? For me right now, given how the fixtures fall and no blanks, I'm not dropping any of them. Now, from game week 13 onwards, I definitely want to find a way to get Cancelo back, because they got Brighton at home, Leicester away, Fulham and Brentford at home. 3 home games. We know how good that Man City defence is. It may well be that Reece James is the one that gets dropped. So I don't like the idea of that, don't get me wrong, and things might change, but his fixtures from game week 13 are Man United at home, they've also got Arsenal at home, and the 2 away games are Brighton and Newcastle. So that is more difficult. So if it gets to a point where this team needs to remain in the structure that it is, there's a big decision to be made. Either you find the money to do Trippier to Cancelo and keep James and Trent, or you just make that James to Cancelo switch. And I don't necessarily like it, and I might try and find a different way to do it, but that is why I've not got Cancelo right now. In terms of Reece James, I think Chelsea's fixtures are pretty good. I have talked a lot about how a lot of the fixtures from now until game week 16 are away games, and the home games are not necessarily that easy. But I think given his upside, given how attacking he is, and I think he's going to be pretty much nailed under Graham Potter as well, he has to be in. It's no question for me at 6 million, he's got to be in. So I'm playing 3 at the back. That's the defence. On the bench, just quickly, I've got Archer, because I'm going for 5 midfielders. I'll talk about that in a minute. And then the other 2 are just Justin and Patterson, because I need to save some money to get this team. Another option for goalkeepers could be to have Everson and Ward instead of Ward and Guaita, and save even more money and possibly upgrade those bench defenders. I quite like Zuma, for example, at West Ham, because I still think their fixtures are pretty good, and he's very attacking from set pieces. But I don't think I can go for Ward and Everson unless Brendan Rodgers gets sacked, because things are just not going well right now. And I'm not sure whether he will or not. If he does, we'll look at what manager comes in. I don't think Leicester can get any worse, and the fixtures are pretty good. But unless he goes, I just don't know if I can trust them to kind of turn it around. But that is another option. I know Ward and Everson will get laughed at. People did it in game week 1. But honestly, the fixtures were not great for Leicester from game week 1 onwards. From game week 9 onwards, they're pretty good. So it is an option. But right now, that's how I'm set out for my defence and goalkeepers. So as it stands, I'm on a 3-5-2. If 3-4-3 can make a comeback, so can a 5-man midfield. And how good does it look, by the way? I'm not saying that's why you should pick certain players, because they look good on paper, but I just love how a 5-man midfield looks for FPL. That's what I'm on right now, but there's lots of talking points in midfield. So I think some of the big things on Wildcard this week is, one, which goalkeeper combination do you go for? Another one's Cancelo, which I already talked about. And then it's which midfielders you select if you go for Salah. So the reason I'm on a 5-man midfield is because I don't really like the choice between Zaha, Bowen and Maddison. If I only have to pick 2, I probably do pick Bowen, and I know people are really frustrated with him because they brought him in for Everton. He didn't get anything. He's done nothing all season, no attack and returns whatsoever. But I still quite like the fixtures for West Ham, and he could be used later on to move to someone else as well. The big question that people will be asking, though, and I fully get it because I'm asking myself the same thing, is it worth having a 5-man midfield and having Archer on your bench versus having like Andreas Pereira on your bench and having 4 midfielders and then going for one of the other forwards as well, like a Tony or an Isak or someone like that? And that answer might be just to go for 3-4-3. But I don't know, there's something about Bowen that I still like. You know me, I don't necessarily mind if players have been blanking, because that can turn around pretty quickly. Look what happened with Son, for example, getting the hat-trick. I'm not saying that's going to happen for Bowen anytime soon, but as long as he starts getting like 1 goal, 1 assist here or there, he could be decent value. And I think with the fixtures they've got, that could happen. I just wonder, because of the Liverpool fixture in game week 12, whether I need to kind of take that risk. But out of the next 5 game weeks for West Ham, I think Wolves at home is pretty good. I don't think it's a great fixture, but I don't think it's that bad either. Fulham at home is good, Southampton away is pretty good, and Bournemouth at home is good as well. So I would say 4 out of the next 5 is still pretty decent for West Ham. And if I had Bowen on my game week 8 wildcard, I wouldn't really be that worried about him. It's just this Liverpool away game. But if he has found some form before that, I don't know if I would necessarily be worried about having to play him in that game. Like if I had other transfers to make. Obviously, I talked about on Wildcard 8 that if I had Kane and Bowen, that would be my switch to Salah. But I've got Salah in my team from the off it. So Bowen's still in. I think if I have to pick two, Maddison, Bowen, Zaha, I probably do just pick Zaha and Maddison. The reason being, Zaha is pretty good right from now until game week 16. Apart from Chelsea at home, the fixtures are really good as we just discussed. He's going to play 90 minutes pretty much every game. He's on penalties well, although I don't think he's necessarily the greatest penalty taker. If a few of them go in between now and game week 16, happy days. And then with Maddison, as bad as Leicester have been, they are still finding ways to score goals. He's definitely going to play. I think we've seen like Vardy, for example, just not an option. I wouldn't go for Daka just because you're always worried about possible rotation with those front men. But Maddison looks like he's going to play every game. And for the next few fixtures, Leicester have got really, really good fixtures, basically is what I'm trying to say. So Forest at home, Bournemouth away, Palace at home, then Leicester at home, Leeds, sorry. So 3 home games in the next 4. And they're all pretty solid. And I think after that, Wolves away, Man City at home, my rough plan would be then to get in Saka around game weeks 13, 14. Because if you look at Arsenal fixtures then, they've got Southampton away, Nottingham Forest at home. Now, I don't think it's necessarily essential to get them back because they then got Chelsea away in 15. But given how well they're playing, that will be something I look at. So I do like the idea of having Maddison for the next 4, hoping it goes well, and then getting Saka in after that. So possibly if that's my move, I don't necessarily need to worry about having Bowen as well, but I do quite like him. The other 2 big talking points for Wildcard 9, so you know how I've already mentioned that I might go without Cancelo. There probably is a conversation to be had about not going for Martinelli as well. We know they've got some pretty tough fixtures in that blank in game week 12, whereas everyone else is going to play him with those tough fixtures and then probably bench him in game week 12. There might be something creative that wildcarders can do in game week 9. My worry about that is I'm definitely going to want him back after the blank, and he's very cheap still, and I also have made 0.3 million on him. Now, I'm not necessarily always tied to keeping players just because of their value, right? At some point, you've got to sell and you've got to bank that money and hope that you get more points, right? There's that phrase that goes around, points over pounds, etc. But I still, at this early stage of the season, when I know I'm going to want him back, I don't know if I'm prepared to sell him, but that is a conversation that we can definitely have over the international break. Like, if you could find the money, you could maybe have Salah, Zaha, Bowen, Maddison. I just don't know if I'd want to bet heavily on Bowen over Martinelli, for example. So I would probably keep him. Then the last one is Salah. I am going to have Haaland and Salah as my 2 premium players. Kane looks really good. De Bruyne looks really good. Maybe Son is back as well. They're all good options. But again, it comes back to those fixtures after game week 11. I'm definitely going to want Salah, so why would I not just put him in now? If we bring up Liverpool just really quick, I've actually got no Liverpool players in my team right now, but that will change. Brighton at home, I think, is a good fixture. I mean, we've never really worried about playing Salah against Arsenal away before. I know right now Liverpool don't look quite as good and Arsenal do look much better than before, but I'm not worried about that fixture. Man City at home is the tough one, but then these fixtures afterwards, I just definitely want Salah for these. I think West Ham at home, Forest away, Leeds at home, they are fixtures I don't want to go without him for. And when I was discussing Wildcard 8, I was looking at doing the Kane to Salah switch in 12 anyway, and I just don't think that Kane's fixtures from 9 to 11 are good enough to put him in now and then leave myself that switch to make. Bearing in mind I've got 1 less week now to make transfers because I'm wildcarding this week instead of last week. So I don't think I can do that. I think I've got to put Salah in from the off. There's another way I can get Kane in though, which I'll discuss in a minute. But right now that's the midfield. 3-5-2. The big question is it really worth having Bowen, or should I just be putting Tony or Isak in instead? And then up front, I've got Haaland and Mitrovic. I don't really see these 2 going anywhere. The only question really is, should I get a third forward? Not whether I should replace one of these 2, because they're definitely going to be in the team. I think if I look at this right now and think about who will be in my team when we get to the deadline in a couple of weeks' time, barring injuries, of course, I think Haaland, Mitrovic, Salah, Zaha, Maddison, Trent, James, Trippier are probably locked. I think goalkeeper position, maybe dropping Martinelli, although I don't think I would do that. Obviously, Bowen to a striker, they're the main things. But I think in my first 11, pretty much 8 of them are already picked. I just don't see that changing. But I am open to kind of suggestions. If you leave a comment below, I'll talk to other managers as well, see what they're doing. I might get a few guests on over the break as well who are on Wildcard just to talk through their draft. But I think a lot of it kind of just picks itself because of the fixtures and the price points and stuff like that. A bit bit like what happened in game week 1. But Haaland and Mitrovic definitely in. The only kind of interesting thing you could maybe do with Haaland, and I know people are going to hate this, like you can't sell him, I get it, but in game week 11 he plays Liverpool away, and in the same week Kane has Everton at home, and I would back Kane to outscore Haaland. It's not me saying that Haaland is not going to score, it's me saying I think Kane has a better opportunity to get more points. And then in game week 12, obviously Haaland has no fixture. The only couple of slight issues I have with that plan is, one, I would lose money on Haaland. I don't think I'm prepared to sell both Martinelli and Haaland. It's only one of them. And also in game week 12, Kane has Man United away, so he can definitely get something from that game. But it kind of like puts a little bit of a dampener on the plan. You kind of want another good fixture. You want like Everton at home and Forest at home or something like that. And then there'd be no questions. I would just do it. But Man United away is not that great. And with the way this team is set up, so I've got Patterson and Justin on the bench. So Justin's fixture in game week 12 is Leeds at home. So I could play him over Martinelli, for example. And then Patterson's fixture, if I just bring up Everton in game week 12, I think it's an away game against Newcastle. Yeah, Newcastle away. So look, it's not amazing, but I could definitely play him in that fixture if I needed to. So I think the thing with Wildcard 9 is you leave yourself the option. If I want to do Haaland to Kane, I can do it. And if I don't want to do it when I get to game week 11, that's fine. I don't have to do it either. And I can just play Justin and Patterson in game week 12 and still have 11 players and just bench those two, you know, Arsenal and City players, Haaland and Martinelli. And then the only thing that really leaves me is, how do I get Arsenal and City players back in afterwards? I think Maddison to Saka or Bowen to Saka is one switch. That gets me a second Arsenal player. And then possibly Reece James to Cancelo, or just try and find some cash from somewhere else to get Cancelo in alongside James and Trent. I think, look, wildcard game week 13 is definitely an option for some people, and you would probably go for triple Man City and probably triple Arsenal. But I think with the fixtures the other players have got, that's not a necessity. I think if I've got 2 from Man City and 2 from Arsenal, that's also okay up until game week 16. After that, it's unlimited transfers and we'll change our team around again. But that is how it looks right now. Let me know in the comments below what you think of it. If you have enjoyed that video, make sure to give it a like and hit that subscribe button if you're new around here. And I'll be back tomorrow with another video.